London AIM and Australian ASX listed Thor Energy is an exploration company with a focus on uranium and energy metals that it says are crucial in the shift to a green energy economy. Thor has a number of projects covering uranium, nickel, copper, lithium and gold, with projects located in Australia and the USA. Nicole Galloway Warland is Managing Director, and she joins us now with some more details. We're talking a lot more about this part of the economy.
Yes.
A lot more companies now begin to surface with projects like the ones you have. How would you describe what you're pitching and what it is you've got which contributes to this new and exciting area?
So we really focused on two projects, uranium assets in the US and then a copper rare earth project in South Australia. So these are very much focused, as you said, on the green economy as we need to meet sustainable net zero carbon emissions. These are commodities that are very much sought after.
Yeah, and you're explorers, aren't you? We must emphasise that this is early stage, so lots of opportunity, I guess, here in the long term to progress these. Just explain a bit more about the projects. You're at two locations, very well respected in terms of mining geographies, nice and safe. So explain more about the projects that you've got.
You're right. Mining, these are friendly mining jurisdictions. So uranium project is over in the US, so Colorado and Utah. 3 projects, all 100% owned by Thor. And then our other project, Alfred East, is located in South Australia. So again, in a mining friendly jurisdiction.
And what assets are you looking for there, or think that there are on the ground that you're looking for in Australia?
So at Alfred East, this is a copper project, but more recently we've identified the association of rare earths with these copper assets. So we have a resource, copper gold resource, but now we're looking at developing the rare earths with that resource.
And what is it you're doing at both locations to progress that? What stage are you at?
So over in the US, we've just flown some geophysics, so radiometrics and magnetics, and this will build onto our portfolio additional targets that we'll be looking at drill testing mid-year.
What makes you think there is that asset there, that potential asset there? Is it a good location? Are there good neighbours that are already producing?
So the projects are in the Uravan mineral belt. So this was historically mined for uranium and vanadium during the 19th century. So we're going back in there looking at extensions to known mineralisation as well as targeting new areas with modern technology. So it really hasn't seen any exploration since the 1960s and 70s. So we're going back in there, building on known areas, and then, like I said, exploring for greenfields targets.
And the same question, I guess, for Australia, because again, the context of geographically where that is.
So the Alfred East project is located in South Australia on the southern area of the Gawler Craton. A lot of people may be familiar with Olympic Dam. So it's to the south of the Gawler Craton. A little bit different in that we're exploring for the copper oxide mineralisation, and this is where the rare earths come into play because we're looking at the clays. So potentially ionic rare earth clays that host also the copper mineralisation. So a little bit different to that primary mineralisation. So this is from surface down to potentially 200 metres depth.
As I said, you're explorers, so it's fairly early stage. I believe you've got about 1.2, 1.3 million pounds worth of cash on the balance sheet, I think, looking at it from a UK listing point of view. In the context of what, £6.8 million, I think, market cap. So it's quite what some people might call a penny stock. But as I say, the opportunities are clearly there. How are you set up for money, spending power? What's your cash burn rate? How long is that money going to last? And there's lots of questions here, but we need to get under the covers for the balance sheet to work out what you're going to be doing. What is your priority?
Look, we're very much focused on spending our money in the ground. So we have a low corporate cost. All our money goes into the ground for exploration. We are looking at projects, as I said, to drill test over in the US and also to do drilling and geophysics at Alfred. These have all been budgeted for. So from a cash point of view, we're quite comfortable in that respect. We also have sold and other projects, and so we've got shares in potentially that we can draw on that cash as well. So positioned quite well for the upcoming programs.
So if you strike and there's an opportunity here and presumably a lot more money is needed, if you can't draw on the other facilities, what then happens? Do you go for joint ventures, or do you go to raise money? What's the longer term plan? Presumably you do have a plan for when there is an opportunity.
Yeah, so look, we're very much, as you said, we're an exploration company. We want to add value for our shareholders through discovery and progressing projects, so building those resources up. This allows then other players to come in, potentially joint venture with us or acquire those projects. Over the last 2 years, we have divested 2 projects, so Pilot Mountain in the US and then Molly Hill project. So we're not afraid to sort of move projects forward and also acquire new projects where we have a synergy or a skill set to drive those projects forward and add value for our shareholders.
Let's look at the share price, which I think it tells one story, but not in isolation because of what you said. I think it's important that we understand where all this comes from and goes to. Look, I talk to a lot of small cap companies, and it's tough. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
But there's also a lot of misrepresentation of value. What do you say to shareholders when looking at the share price chart, the direction of travel and what you've got?
Look, obviously I personally can't control the share price, but I feel we're very much undervalued, and there's a huge opportunity with our upcoming work programs to really, double that price easily. So I think there's a lot of news flow, a lot of good opportunities to move that share price in a very positive direction.
Over what sort of period? What are you looking at in terms of news flow opportunities?
We have quite a bit of news flow coming up. So over in the US, we'll have the geophysics results, and then we'll be on the ground drilling. So they're 2 sort of key news flows which will drive the share price with positive results. And then at Alfred East, we'll have some metallurgical results on the potential of ionic clays for these rare earths, and then also getting on the ground drilling. So a lot of opportunities to move that share price.
Okay, great story. Thanks indeed for joining us. Do keep in touch. I'd like to hear more about what's happening. Nicole, it's a pleasure. Thanks indeed for joining us. Nicole Galloway Warland is Managing Director of Thor Energy with 2 projects, one in the US, one in Australia.